So, it's unavoidable. This whole weekend, I'm sure all you've really been hearing about is Kanye West's new album, Jesus is King.
Listen, I was at a Women of Destiny conference, so all I've been hearing about is how Jesus is my king. I ain't been hearing about how Jesus is Kanye's king.
So let's try and go over some of the high points of the story here. So it's been clear throughout Kanye's career that he has at least had a tenuous grasp of faith. He had that Jesus Walks song several years ago, which, while still arrogant and vulgar in many parts, it had a couple good lines in there that were true, such as, "But if I mention Jesus on my record, then it won't get played." Huh? Like that. Really good. It was a convicting line to the secular world, saying that we should let more Christian artists be played on radio, normal radio. But it's always, been very clear that Kanye was about Kanye. Mm-hmm. And as that's gone on from Jesus Walks, he even was semi-blasphemous, kind of calling himself God, with giving himself the nickname Yeezus and stuff like that. And that's been, at best controversial. It's more very blasphemous. But as things have been going on, beginning of 2008, he started announcing that his next album was coming. And the album was going to be called Yandhi. And it was supposed to be like a follow-up to the Jesus Walks album. It had a release date of September of last year, 2018. That came and went. And then they set another release date like a month later. That came and went. Nothing happened. And then a few months ago, we find out that he announces that he's actually accepted Christ as his Savior, which of course was met with heavy skepticism, just because
it's Kanye
Kanye West, and everything that he does is met with skepticism these days. And so he started saying that, the album has changed. It's Jesus is King now. Back before that happened, some of Yandhi was leaked online. And so there were a couple songs, or at least bits of songs, that people heard. None of those songs are on this album that came out. Those songs sounded more like Kanye West used to sound like. Apparently, he nixed Yandhi and did a whole new record completely devoted to Jesus. Of course, he's been doing the Sunday services now at the same time since that announcement came out. I think they've all been, I don't know where they've all been. They've all been in like one place. It's not been like a concert tour. But a Sunday service where everyone, big outdoor thing, where everyone sings songs, and then they have a pastor preach. And it's his personal, not like personal pastor, but it's his pastor. He doesn't have a pastor on retainer. But his own pastor. And this guy was interviewed too. This pastor was interviewed too. Basically, I believe the only reason anyone wanted to interview him was to be like, is this for real?
Yeah.
Is he real? And he talked about, very level-headed. He sounded like a normal dude, believes everything that you believe, not a prosperity gospel, not strange or out there, any weird cult. Sounded like a normal evangelical pastor. And he's talking about how he actually asked Kanye all these questions. He asked him the questions that any pastor typically does ask when someone says that they want to accept Christ. So, do you believe this? Do you believe this? Do you accept this? And he said that, Kanye, he's a new believer. He's a young believer, but he understands, and he made the decision. He says he believes it is 100% genuine, and he has seen a change in him since then. One of the biggest things that spoke out to me is that this pastor said that Kanye came to him and said he was going to quit music. He said he wanted to leave the rap music scene, leave music altogether, because that's been such a source of evil for him, and that the rap industry itself is evil, and he doesn't want to put himself in that position anymore. And it was his pastor that actually encouraged him, why can't you use that for the Lord? Mm-hmm. And he said, there are Christian rappers. He said, have you ever heard of Lecrae, Trip Lee, Andy Mineo? Have you ever heard of any of these? And Kanye said, no, I've never heard of them before. And so, he encouraged him to go listen to some of the Christian hip hop artists out there. And that was kind of the beginnings of changing the Yandhi album into the Jesus is King album and deciding to go forward in music. Which I think is incredibly humble of him to think, well, I should just quit. I should quit and not cause any more problems, make sure I stay out of that. Mm-hmm. I think that was incredibly humble, which is something that Kanye West historically has never been. Mm-hmm. And I think that has really come to light. We talked about this a little bit before we started recording. I think that's really come to light in the lyrics on this album, which we'll kind of dig into in the last hour. But I feel like he is sounding the least arrogant he's ever sounded in these lyrics. Yeah.
I am not a Kanye fan. I have never been a Kanye fan, but it's because of his arrogance, just his better than thou, stuck up. I don't think I have ever listened to a Kanye song in full ever because I just can't stomach it.
Can't get through.
And
can't get through the lyrics.
Just listened to 4. So, and honestly, Matt, it wasn't until you said that I was like, that is so true. That is so, and to me, that's probably the biggest sign of a true heart change.
Yeah. I don't think any of us at least in the Christian community, were expecting what we got.
Yeah.
I don't think that we were expecting him to be this self-deprecating in several of the songs, this honest in several of the songs. I didn't expect him to be this reverent of Jesus in all of the songs.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't expecting him to be the next dude to make a song about Chick-fil-A. You got Tim Hawkins, you got Jaron Myers, you got Shama.
So, and as I was listening,
now Kanye West.
Is it called Chick-fil-A? Is that what it's called?
Closed on Sunday.
Closed on Sunday, that's right. So, as I was listening to it, I honestly was rolling my eyes. You probably made the mistake by having me listen to that one first. But I was rolling my eyes thinking, seriously? It's just another Chick-fil-A song. This is a joke. This is dumb. This is what he wants to call a Christian album, a Christian song. This is ridiculous. But then I really had to tap into the lyrics and the chorus. And I guess, are we talking about the lyrics in the second or in the last hour?
In the second hour, yeah. We'll get into it in deep.
But there was a few lyrics where when I removed my own personal feelings and thoughts, and I was like, this is reflective of Jesus. He's not necessarily speaking, I mean, yes, he's talking about Chick-fil-A, but when you see the symbolism in it, it's reflective of Jesus. And it's amazing.
Yeah.
Which it almost makes me want to throw up a little bit in my mouth that I'm saying that.
So this album itself even got delayed several times. It was supposed to come out a few months ago, I think, and then it was supposed to come out at the beginning of October, and then it was supposed to come out October 20th, and then it got pushed back to October 25th, or 25th, or 24th. 25th.
That doesn't matter.
I don't know.
Let's keep going.
At some point. It was supposed to come out, it was supposed to hit like on midnight, and then you're like, no, it's going to be 12 more hours. And so 12 more hours. And so I'm sitting here wondering with the delays, at least the most recent delays, and thinking, what could be behind those delays? And, it's all speculation. But I fully believe that it's, making sure these lyrics are accurate, making sure that everything is on point and fully reflective of his current faith. So one of the interesting things that I saw that has also kind of proven to me that this is a genuine change in him is that I saw a clip from Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Okay.
Which I don't watch, but I saw this clip because it was on another...
Kind of sounds like you do watch it.
where Kanye West was talking with his wife and said, was basically asking her not to dress as provocatively anymore. And so they were having this discussion where she likes to dress how she likes to dress. And, she's telling him, you're the one that had me dress like this to begin with. You're the one that wanted me. You encouraged me to dress, provocatively whenever we went out because you were showing me off and stuff like that. And now you're trying to change me, and I'm not ready to change. You might be going through this new journey, but I'm not there yet, kind of thing. And so, Kanye wasn't being mean about it.
Right.
He wasn't up and upset and throwing things. He was
being a husband.
He was expressing himself, and and he accepted that, which I think is fine.
Yeah.
She's been expressing a little bit more faith on her side too, but not in the same amount, I guess, as Kanye. So I don't really know where she is, but he made it clear it was because of that. It was because he didn't want others to be staring at her, because now we're married, and that should now be reserved for us, kind of thing. And more of the weird Kanye stuff is that it's been reported that while they were producing the album, he asked the people working on the album, most of whom were not believers, to not have premarital sex while they're working on the album. So this all tells me that he does sound like a new Christian, a baby Christian, because that's exactly what happens when you become a Christian. Number one, you get really excited about it. Number two, you start to try and line everything up in your life really quickly with the with the new morals that you're accepting,
right?
And that comes off weird. But again, this even that story didn't come off as him like, you better not be having any sex or doing anything like this while we're working on, it was a request, kind of thing of just, he wanted the album to be as untainted as possible, to go out there. So one of the things that you said was that, to me before, was that you had kind of heard that some people are saying this is just Kanye trying to make a quick buck off of religious folks.
Yeah.
Because
there's some opinions that he's not doing so well in the secular world. Albums aren't really selling. He's not making as much money. And so this is his last-ditch effort. Let's go after the Christian world. Let me say that I'm a Christian, and then I'll have all of their support. Yeah.
And that was something that was brought up a lot on Twitter, I saw, because a lot of people were comparing it to an episode of South Park that I did see back when I was a teenager.
Of course you did. You're a heathen.
Where the episode was essentially the kids wanted to start a band, and they wanted to be popular quick, and so they decided they'd be a Christian band. And so they took all these love songs and they replaced Baby with Jesus, and then just recorded all these now Christian songs as a band called Faith Plus One. Made tons of money. And so everyone's comparing that to Kanye as well, saying that he's doing the same thing. He's just going to go get all the Christian money because they pretty much have to love him because he's saying he's a Christian. And I mean, I can see why people would be skeptical. Because again, this is a very different Kanye. And he has been so arrogant and blasphemous in the past. To just flip the script now, and he wants to go after the Christian market. I can see how people would think that. But I think the lyrics themselves kind of show otherwise. Because they're not... They're shallow in the sense that they're from a new believer, but I don't think they're so shallow that they come off as
that they're fake. Yeah.
They really do come off as genuine. So we are going to talk a little bit more about that and a little bit more about this album at the top of the next hour. All right, well, getting back to our main topic, we're talking Jesus is King by Kanye West. We are going to look at some of the lyrics from the album. So there are a few songs that I was really interested in. But the first one has a key line that, if you didn't understand kind of like the history of everything that's happened in the last couple of years, you might have missed it. The first real song, the first full song is called Selah. And the lyric in the first verse is, where's it at? Everybody wanted Yandi, then Jesus Christ did the laundry. Mm-hmm. So Yandi was the name of the original, what this album was supposed to be. It was the original album, his next album was supposed to be this, and it was completely different from leaks that we found. Completely different from this. He was working on this for years, had the release date planned, came and went, possibly because he was already being worked on spiritually, at that point. But we don't think that he had made that decision yet, the salvation. But he's saying here, pretty much, I was working on that, then Jesus Christ came into my heart, cleaned me up a bit, and so this is what I'm bringing forth now.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, which I think is really neat.
It was one of my least favorite songs from the new album.
Sound-wise.
Right.
Lyrics are pretty good.
It was super weird to me.
Yeah. He is very experimental sounding on most of his songs. Mm-hmm. And he always really kind of has been. But, I like it.
The line directly before everybody wanted Yandi, then Jesus Christ did the laundry, is before the flood, people judged, they did the same thing to Noah. And that, of course, perked up my ears. I'm like, okay, he's spitting some truth. He's actually bringing the gospel, and then heard that portion, and I was like, oh. Because you really, for me, it's a matter of, and I'm going to probably say this with all the songs that we discussed, but it's a matter of, is he being honest? Is he being genuine? Is he bringing the gospel? Or is he just saying all the right things?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That line specifically spoke to me just because he knew ahead of time. He knew ahead of time what was going to happen, that people were going to doubt him and be skeptical of it. And it is much the same as what they did with Noah. They had never seen rain before. What you doing building a boat? Okay. Yeah. Have fun with that.
Let's see. Everything old shall now become new. The leaves will be green, bearing the fruit. Love God and our neighbor, as written in Luke, the army of God, and we are the truth. He seems very, very new Christian-like. I'm a believer now, and let's charge the gates of hell with a water pistol. That's kind of how we all feel whenever we do that, or like if we go have like some mountaintop experience at camp when we're a youth kid or whatever, we come back on fire again, and that's what he sounds like. He sounds like right now he is an on fire believer. Let's see. You wanted to talk about, or you were trying to talk about the songs the lyrics on Closed on Sunday.
Yeah.
Share with us what you were.
Well, hold on. I got to bring it up. I got to look. Jeez Louise. See, and internet here in our building is super slow. So.
Well, what you were saying was that at first it sounded corny and cheesy because they're like, oh, it's just another Chick-fil-A song. And so, it does start that way. Close on Sunday, you're my Chick-fil-A. You're my number one with the lemonade. That's what I get every time. Number one with the lemonade. Diet lemonade, which is on fire, and extra pickles. But, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Your phone's still backing up?
No, it's there.
So what did you want to talk about?
Okay, so here's the thing. And I tend to come at lyrics from a different point of view. Always. I tend to try and find the artistic value in it, and that it possibly very well could mean something more than just what the lyrics are saying.
Right.
Okay. So what you were just saying, closed on Sunday, you're my Chick-fil-A, hold the selfies, put the gram away, get your family, y'all hold hands and pray. So for me, that was, okay. Chick-fil-A is such a renowned restaurant. It is the top dog of the fast food chains, right? Everybody loves Chick-fil-A. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, even all the portion of the country that hates Chick-fil-A for their beliefs has
Loves
that internal
Chick-fil-A for
struggle
their
of,
food.
yeah.
Exactly. And so for me, it's almost as if God is Chick-fil-A. Okay, that is, and
in this, in
it
this
sounds
allegory.
bad the way that I say it, but take it from an artistic approach. Take it from a symbolic approach, okay? He is closed on Sunday. Personally, Kanye is closed on Sunday. He's not doing anything. Mm-hmm. Because his worship is what's important, okay? Because God is his Chick-fil-A. Hold the selfies, put the gram away. He's not doing this for fame. He's not doing this for attention. He's not doing this for publicity or to be put on Instagram or whatever. And then get your family, y'all hold hands and pray. It's something that he wants to pass on. It's a legacy. He wants it to be not just for himself, not just something that, like I said, that he's doing publicly to get likes or even unlikes, you know, just so that his name can be out there.
Yeah.
He's doing it for himself and for his family, for his children and for his wife. Mm-hmm. So I had to really take myself back and stop thinking of it as another Tim Hawkins funny comedy skit on Chick-fil-A, right, and just take a moment of, because at the end of the day, Kanye is an artist.
Yeah.
He is a musician, you know, and musicians all the time have artistic liberty with their lyrics. And so I wanted to just take a step back and go, okay, what possibly is he meaning more from this? And that's kind of the route that I took. Okay, he is personally not putting anything above God in his life.
Right.
You know?
Yeah,
so.
and he's talking about, essentially this song is about keeping the Sabbath holy, you know,
right,
like you alluded to. But he's talking about the reason why and what we should kind of be focusing on when we're in this. And, you know, he's talking about, you know, when you have daughters, keep them safe, raise our sons, train them in the faith through temptations, make sure they're wide awake. That speaks really clearly to me, that line, because, you know, as someone who dealt with a pornography addiction for many, many years, I know that that's a conversation, and probably a lot of conversations I'm going to have with my two boys as they get older and get to that point of trying to make sure that they're strong in the face of those temptations, because they're going to be everywhere.
Right.
There's no way I'm going to be able to keep him from ever seeing pornography, either one of them. And so it's got to be on them, and hopefully I'm going to be able to be up to the task of teaching them why it's so important to avoid those temptations and to be awake. And so, you know, I see that as well. Let's see, where is this?
I even I think it's within the second verse, stand up for my home, even if I take this walk alone. I mean, he knows right away. And I think that's something that a lot of baby Christians, you know, we hear it, but we don't really take it into consideration of how lonely our Christian walk can be at times, you know, because people are second guessing us or bashing us or questioning our decisions, or, you know, even other Christians. And so for him to say his number one priority is to stand up for his home, to make sure his children and his wife are, you know, protected, if you will, even if he has to do it by himself.
Yeah. And then one of the things we talked about in the last hour was, you know, how seems to be the least arrogant he's ever sounded in an album. That very next line after what you just said is, I bow down to the king upon the throne. I never thought I'd hear the day when I heard Kanye West say he was going to bow down to somebody else he was calling king.
Yeah. Right.
And that's what, like, all of these songs really reflect. They all really reflect a more humble attitude. The song, let's see, where is it at? I think it's Hands On. Yeah. Hands On, where this is a very... This is almost a convicting song for Christians who didn't want to believe it. You know, don't want to trust Jesus, or don't want to trust that Kanye's a believer in Jesus now, a genuine believer, because it goes on to say at this point that let's see, where is it? He says, said I'm fixing to do a gospel album. What have you been hearing from the Christians? Mm-hmm. They'll be the first ones to judge me, make it feel like nobody loves me. I said, if they only see the wrongs, never listen to the songs, just to listen is a fight, but you booked me for the flight. It's so hard to get along if they only see the sight from the love of religion. What have you been hearing from the Christians? They'll be the first one to judge me. Then down here in this second verse, which you might not hear very clearly in the song because it's actually heavily synthesized, this part of the verse. But this is where that self-deprecation comes in. It said, after all that, saying that the Christians are going to be the first one to judge me and all this, he says this: I deserve all the criticism you've got. If that's all the love you have, that's all you got. To sing of change, you think I'm joking. To praise his name, you ask what I'm smoking. Yes, I understand your reluctancy, but I have a request. Don't throw me up. Lay your hands on me. Please pray for me. I mean, he's saying, look, you're going to doubt me, and I understand you're going to doubt me. You're going to doubt that this is a real change.
I've given you reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's the other lyric in another track, which we heard, I think it's Use This Gospel, where he says that, what does he say? Oh, he says something along the lines of, who am I to judge? I'm as crooked as Vegas. And he says something later on that's there's a lot of souls lost, and basically it's my fault kind of thing. Yeah. That I'm the one that lost him, or I'm the one that got him that way, or something of that nature. It's an owning up. It's almost a repentance, in these songs. Yeah. For the way he has
very much so
expressed himself and led people, throughout the years.
And I think for me that not only are we hearing a change in his level of arrogance, he is definitely much more humble in this album, but we are also hearing a level of accountability and a level of admittance to what he's done wrong. Yes, sure, it may be easier for him to admit his wrongs because he sees it in the tabloids, he sees it in the gossip columns, whatever. It's all over media, if you will. So, our sins may be a little more hidden, and it may be a little harder for us to be like, oh yeah, that's right. In 2005, we did that. I need to seek repentance for it.
Yeah.
His is everywhere. He can go back and look for it. But taking Kanye for who he was prior and who he has shown and proved himself to be, this alone is the biggest testimony to what an actual life change he's experiencing. His lyrics and the fact that he is able to admit what I was before sucked.
Yeah. So with all these lyrics, with all the speculation leading up to it, everything we've heard and we haven't heard, and the rumors flying and the gossip and the interpretations of, is this real, is this not? We come down to the question that I don't think anybody really expected to ask until they heard the album. Should Christian radio stations play this music?
You want my answer?
I do.
Why wouldn't we? I mean, just to be totally honest, do we know the testimony of all of our other favorite Christian bands and Christian artists? Do we know what their past was? Do we know, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We don't, other than what they tell us in song. But truth is, most of them came to know Jesus before they came to their career.
Right.
And I think this is a huge benefit for believers to be able to say, this is what Jesus does. This is the life change that you experience. Jesus can take a mess and create a true message out of it. Mm-hmm. So why are we that moronic that we would say, yeah, but he wasn't a believer yesterday, so he can't play his music today.
Right. And see, it's we're in this situation like you said, we don't know anybody's, true story out there. We play plenty of Christian artists simply on the basis of them saying they're Christian artists and listening to the lyrics of their songs.
Yeah.
We don't go back into their past, dive back into everything that they did in their past. It's just that Kanye has been so in the forefront of everybody's pop culture for the last decade or more that doing the opposite of what he's doing now.
Yeah.
That people want to be skeptical. And again, I get it. I understand why that would be an impulse. But at the same time, it's not really our place to say, well, no, it's not genuine.
Yeah.
It's our place to pray that it is and encourage the good that he's doing. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, if this is a bridge from Kanye fans who were Kanye fans in the old manner that are still willing to listen to Kanye now in the new faith-filled, gospel-infused music that he's putting out, that should be a good thing.
Yeah. And on top of, not only are his lyrics going to reach people, but I can see so many young men who idolized Kanye, thinking that he was a figure of power and a figure of what a man should be, because he didn't take no crap from nobody. He was his king. You know what I mean? That was the arrogant Kanye. But then to see him humble himself and come to Christ and admit that Christ is his king, I can see so many young men go, whoa, if he can do it, maybe I need to do it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, the other argument that people have is, why should we build him up just because he came to Christ? That there are a lot of people that came to Christ. His conversion is no bigger or more special than anybody else's. And I like what Adam Ford from Discern News says. He said in his opinion article, that's right and that's wrong. His conversion in and of itself, sure, but Kanye has sold 21 million albums and 100 million digital downloads. Millions of people listen to every word that he utters. He has the potential to influence masses of people. So it is a big deal that he's bringing this music to the forefront with the lyrics that he has. And for that reason, I believe it should be welcome on Christian music, Christian radio. Is it possible a year down the line he'll flip-flop or it'll be some weird cult or who knows, some bad thing? Sure. There's that possibility.
Sure.
But that's not my place to say that's going to happen, and that's not my place to worry about that. My place is to encourage this new believer, pray for him, and pray that he continues to grow in the faith. And honestly, continues to put out music that glorifies God, glorifies Jesus. So for that reason, Back Row Radio is going to be playing some of these songs.
Yeah, I can't believe I just did that.
You just whooped for Kanye West music. That you don't like Kanye West music. Oh. But you're excited because of the point. You're excited because of the message.
I like the I like the message behind the songs. They're a little weird, some of them. They're a little weird.
I like it. I like the experimental stuff. I really do. That's why we play a lot of Kevin Max too. A lot of his stuff is weird and experimental.
Well, you're weird, so.
But let me be clear. This is not just like an excuse to let us play one of the most popular artists, on the station. You're like, oh, well, now we have an excuse to play Kanye West.
Listen, if you've been listening to the show, then you know.
Honestly, I told somebody this online because we asked this question to our scoopers, which is the people that are Patreon donors, essentially. They help us make decisions. And we basically laid this all out and asked them what they thought, told them to listen to some of these, and tell us whether or not we should play them. And I honestly said, if I had my way, I probably would just ignore this and skip over it because I know it might cause some backlash.
Pretend like it's not happening. Just
Right.
pretend like it's not happening.
But I feel like it's important.
Yeah.
I feel like it's important to the culture that we encourage this kind of thing.
Absolutely.
We did the same thing with Avril Lavigne. Avril Lavigne has been, a Christian for a long time, but her music has been mostly secular. But she came out with a very worshipful song, and so we play that song. We don't play any of her other stuff, but we play that song because it is worshipful. It is.
We don't play Skater Boy?
We don't play Skater Boy. That's the only other song I know.
I know.
But I believe it's a good thing, and I believe we should be encouraging this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So we are going to play it. You'll probably hear it in the upload later today. So his stuff will start playing later today on the station.
Cool deal. I do want to say, you talked about how, and we even talked about this with in the first hour when we talked about Toby Mac and the loss of his son, but it's just that natural, innate reaction within us to just be skeptics, to just question it and doubt it. And I've said this before, and I just want to say it again just as a reminder, but I have to tell my kids this on a regular basis. Our first reaction, our first natural reaction to things typically is not how we should respond to a situation, because that natural reaction, we know we live in a sinful nature. Our nature is innately sinful.
Yeah.
And so whatever that first response is, we should always take a step back and go, wait a minute. Is this how Jesus would respond in this situation? Is obviously, I'm going to take it back to the 1990s when we all wore our WWJD bracelets. But, what would Jesus do? Is the way that I'm responding reflective of his nature or reflective of my sinful nature?
Right.
And by doing that, by taking that step back, I think a lot more of us can all be in agreement that right now, our first response needs to be to pray for and encourage Kanye in this new journey of his.
Absolutely.